Sidra, welcome.
Thank you, Paulina. Super excited.
I'm so excited for this. I've been looking forward to this all my life. um, okay, so I want to start with the last time we saw each other. You told me about a moment when you were a child with a banana and with your little brother. But I want to ask you, tell me about the first time in your family that you challenged tradition and kind of the status quo within your own family.
Yeah, what I remember is when I was in high school, I had a conversation with my mother because I was reading about some kind of like book where they mention that women should do like all household work, and men should they think about doing something outside. And I was like, I was arguing with my mother like how this is possible. I don't understand that. That's the conversation I remember. But the incident which I told you, that I asked my mother because we had recently I started asking a lot of questions to my mother because I want to know more of like how she was thinking, and also I don't have like a lot of my childhood memories. So I asked her, and she told me specifically that incident, which is funny, but as well as a window to like how I was thinking, and it was very surprising to me. So she mentioned that you guys were, we are actually six siblings. So at the time, four. So my mother bought like six banana, half a dozen, and she she brought that home, and she gave like to everyone one, and then she gave two to my brother. And then I fought back, and I said like, why he's getting two? And she said, oh, he's younger than you, he's your brother. And why you are fighting, no one else is saying anything. And I said, if he's a younger, then he should eat less and I should eat more. So
I
that's
mean,
the
logically, yes.
so that's the conversation I remember, and she remembers. So I think, yeah, I think she had an idea like from where I'm coming from and what I'm thinking.
And so now this is a city in Pakistan in what year?
So this was so we were in Ukhara. I don't
Okay.
remember what year. It would be maybe like somewhere in 90s, like 1994 or 1996, something somewhere in that.
So I want to talk about this because this is not a normal thing for a little girl to be thinking in that way, especially when you didn't know anything else beyond your family and your city and your neighborhood. So why do you think that you started thinking that way? Was that an intrinsic thing, or do you think you saw why do you think you saw the world so differently from everybody else in your family?
Yeah, I was actually recently, especially with after Humans of New York story, I was recently like reflecting a lot, like how the way I am, and I think it's also like because I saw my mother and father doing the same jobs. Like my mother is a teacher, still she's a teacher. My father is a retired teacher, but I saw them going to school, teaching kids, doing same kind of job. For me, like there was no difference. And then when they were coming back, my mother was cooking food for all of us, and my father he used to just go and take rest. My mother, she would quickly change her clothes and will start cooking for all of us. And I was like taking a mental note of that. How come like he's not helping? I don't know why I was thinking, but for me, like there was no difference. He's my father, she's my
Right.
mother, like doing the same kind of thing. And then in the evening, they both were like, they had a home tuition center. So kids from neighbor, they were coming to our home for home tuition for both, to my mom and to my father. So boys, they were getting tuition from my father. Girls, they were getting tuition from my mother. So I practically did not see any difference. And when all of a sudden, they started talking about, oh, you know, male, female, they should sit in these kind of like brackets. My brain couldn't digest that because that's not what I was seeing. And no one understood that what is the impact of a woman who basically is not just taking care of family, but also like having a career, have a professional career. So my mother, I saw her in a very, very different way. And I think that was my first window to look at differently.
Do you think that your parents recognized that in you at an early age, that you thought a little bit differently than other kids?
I think my mother did, because we had several conversations. And the interesting thing, Paulina, I don't know, like this is crazy in me. Like later on in my life, especially like from high school, I started expecting more from women. I am someone like who is not, I don't know, I feel that as a woman, you can understand more of that struggle better as compared to anyone else. So I was actually having a lot of dialogue, sometimes like aggressive dialogues, because, I was in that age. You can think about like teenager, like, they were
Yeah.
trying to understand the world around themselves and as well as feeling a lot of confidence and ability in themselves. So I was having a lot of conversation with my mother, and she recognized that. um, and I remember a conversation, where she mentioned to me that, hey, you are not going to do anything good in your uh, good for yourself, because you have all these big ideas and people are going to push you. And I think her defense mechanism was like she wanted to protect me. So she was also standing by the society, not by my side, because she thought like, oh, maybe she was thinking that it's okay for me to have a to face that resistance inside home, and then don't go beyond that before I face restrictions from society. And to be honest, like, I had no shape and no image of the society, just the word. I
Yeah.
don't As a teenager, I had no idea like what does mean by society, like who are these people.
Right. Who
Is
is
it
judging me out there?
I'm not listening these kind of words and incident from anyone else except you. So when you are using that, hey, society will say this, I really want to know who are those people and why I should care about them.
Right. Wow. So, okay, wow. This is it's just you were thinking so differently and so logically in a time and a place where that just wasn't accepted. As a woman in the city where you grew up, what were the expected career paths for a woman?
So mostly women in my city, they were getting so there was a different category. Actually, Pakistan is a country of class. We have a lot of class.
Mhm.
Even like in small cities, there are different classes. Someone who's coming from a very a village, where they were doing farming, so for them, for girls, it's like if when they are at the age of like 18, 20, they should get married, and they should only training they get is about their household, how they have to run their family, which is I think also an interesting training, an important training, because how you have to live your life, all of that. I think it later on like help you. But then the other class is like who send their daughters to school, and they get education, maybe like they get up to like high school, or they get graduate. So that kind of like there is one class. The other class is like where people go and they think about a career path, like they send their daughters for some kind of professional kind of things. So my family is from a middle class family where we stress a lot on education, that everyone should get an education, men or women.
Yeah.
And then if you are really good in your studies, then you can become a doctor or an engineer. If you are an average, then you should become a teacher.
Okay.
There is other path, like you if you are thinking about becoming, let's see, a banker, or someone who wants to like take care of like who wants to like build a career in finance industry or become a scientist, it less likely you're gonna adopt that kind of career. So for me, when I was in my high school and when I graduated, I was like average student. I was not very
Mhm.
bright. My elder sister was a bright student. Um, so uh, so no one was looking at me like, oh, she would do something remarkable. I remember like I had a conversation with my father, and he right after my exams result came, and I was sitting on the dining table, and he came and he said, you guys are you he looked at me and my younger brother, because we both were like very poor in our grades, looked at us and he said, you guys are not going to do anything in your life. And I looked at my father and I said, Abu. We call my
Mhm.
father. I said, Abu, one day people will recognize you by my name.
Ooh.
And he looked at me like shocked. For 2 seconds, he looked at me, and then he started laughing, and he just left the room.
I love that.
So
That is
that it was.
it's so okay. So I just I love that you wanted something more for your life than what was planned for you. But did you have any women in your life that you looked up to that were entrepreneurs or anything like that? Did you have any examples of that?
During that time, no, but I remember I was very much inspired by women who, at the time we were there was only one TV channel. It
Mhm.
was in Pakistan. It's called PTV, which was Pakistan Television, and they were showcasing some dramas where you see like women who's going outside, building her
Mm.
life, and is out there. They were not showing those kind of women in a good way. Like they always show those women like as a villain, someone who is housebreaker or all of those things. I don't know. I Except that part, I was very inspired by. Oh, they are leaving their home, thinking about their life and all of that. So kind of like I got connected from that part. And if I was seeing someone, let's see, like a lot of time, like we see on that TV shows, someone from Lahore, Karachi, which was the biggest city in Pakistan. I wanted to see that life. I wanted to see that environment because where the city where I was living, at one point we were not allowed to leave home because it was not that, it was not considered as safe. Except you can go out with your brother or you can go out with your
Mhm.
friends alone. It was not that easy. So I was like kind of looking for that kind of freedom, but I couldn't see someone around me. I think unconsciously my mother was, because she was teacher. And Yeah, but later on life, when I left my hometown, when I started reading more about books, when I started interacting with people over internet, then I actually started thinking about a lot of women as someone who I wanted to be. And actually it gave me a window and also courage that, oh, you can do those kind of things, you can be those kind of people, and you just have to like keep looking forward what you want to achieve. Yeah.
So you have these big ideas and you have dreams. You tried to send a tape to a radio station at one point, and then your mom was like, "All right, Sidra, that's enough." How old were you when you had to go to a matchmaker to potentially get married?
I was uh, i was 17, 18
Wow.
years old when they started coming. And it went on until like I was 24 years old. Like not like every day, but some months or some years they would come. um,
Can
but
you tell me about what is that process like? Just explain it to me.
Yeah, so the process was like my someone would tell my mother that there is this guy and family and they are looking for a potential bride, and they this is their background. So they will explain that to my mother, and normally some auntie in our neighborhood, she would come to my mother. So my mother, she would look at that and then she would have a conversation with my father. And most of the time it was, hey, let's see like who they are, let's see like what they think. And then once they are agree, then they will call boys parents to at our home. Not like the boy would not be you would not come. So they would come, parents would come or some siblings would come along. They would So I would come with a tray of chai, enter into with my everything set up. And then I would sit like, I'm the most shy and I don't have, this is interesting, like I'm also scared to say because this is not like a general culture in Pakistan, this is like my home
Yeah,
culture,
yeah, yeah.
does not define like everyone. um, so I would enter in a way that I don't know anything about world. I don't know, I'm the one who is a yes person. And whenever they will ask something, I would just like respond in few words or just shake my head. That's what like been told. So, and then they would go out. If they would like me, then they would invite my parents, and then my parents would go, and then they would investigate each other's families,
Hmm.
how, if they are telling if it is right or not right. And then they would ask me, what do you think? Is it good for you or not? This is something you want to do or not? So this is like kind of the whole process. Sometimes like process breaks in the middle because of some other information that.
And so did you ever so did you first of all, did you want to get married?
No, no. So this is the thing. This was very interesting. My elder sister, she, I think she wanted to do a lot in her life, but then she also realized that uh, you, she was the eldest, so she had that pressure, and I think I was lucky that I did not have that pressure at some point. But I never wanted to get. I never thought like, hey, this is my time to get married. I knew that I will at some point, but I was thinking that the kind of person I want to be, I need someone who can understand me better. The understanding should be first. It should not be, hey, this family, this background, how much property, how much income, all of that. That should come later on. So yeah, I wanted to get married, but not at that point. Not at the age of 17, 18, not at the age of 25 even. So
Wow. So, did you ever kind of try to like blow up the marriage by saying, you know what, I'm not actually very good at cooking, and or how did you get out of not getting married?
so I think some moment, I don't know. I think there was a luck also on my side. There were a lot of people who came at our home, and then when my parents investigated about their background, they were not comfortable.
Mm.
Or sometime, when that auntie was coming to our home, I was a little bit outspoken in front of her, not to the boys' parents and all that,
Yes.
because otherwise, like, I had to like get back to my home, so my mother would not like that. So like sometime I would speak about like, hey, I don't feel like, but I think overall, if I have to look back, I was lucky. Like there could have been a moment where everything, my background, boys background, whatever my parents were looking, would have been good, and i
Wow.
ended up I could have ended up in a different shape.
Isn't that crazy how different your life could have turned out if that had worked out? That's so crazy. So at this point in time, you don't know about the internet. Is that correct?
I knew about internet at the age of when I was I don't remember exactly the age, but when I was in class ninth, I knew about
Okay.
the I knew about the internet, and that this is the incident. The way I knew about internet, my mother's brother, my uncle, he came to our home, and he said he was talking to my mother. So I was laying on the bed, and he was sitting on the side, and he was talking to my mother and saying, um, uh, Baji, like he called elder sister Baji in Pakistan, that there is this thing called internet, and you can even order a chai from internet. And half sleeping, and I imagine like chai comes from the wires. He said
Right.
like computer we had. So at the time we had a computer at home, because my father, he was a teacher, and he was using spreadsheets.
Mm.
Uh, but we were not using internet because the internet was expensive, it was not in our town and all that. And when he mentioned that, I almost imagined that someone like chai is coming from the wires, because it was so novel idea. You can't imagine that, oh, you can order a chai from a computer, how come this is possible?
I
So now I'm
totally
like,
get that.
yeah, so I'm fast forward like 15 years later, I'm selling like shoes on internet. This is crazy.
Wow. And so during that time though, what books were you reading?
During that time, we so interestingly, our the circumstances, the way our home environment changes. We When we were kids, there were a lot of science books in our home, and we were reading about some scientist or some kind of like scientific innovations. Because my father was a science teacher, so he was also like keeping himself updated. And then there were few novels, but not much. I was not reading novels as much. but at the same time, like my parents had all the focus. Hey, because I was not good at studies, so whenever they
Mhm.
would be reading some extra other books, they would say like, "Hey, why don't you focus on your books? You are not good in your studies. Why you are wasting your time?" So I don't remember any other books except like science books. And then later on, I when I graduated, I started reading novels. So I read Godfather. I read the book I mentioned in Humans of New York Story, and then I
Yeah.
also read other Pakistani classic novels during same time, over the period of 5 years. Yeah.
So you mentioned that sometimes you would go to your aunt's house who had a lot of books there, and that's where you met somebody pretty special. Can you tell me how you met Waqas for the first time?
Yeah, so my aunt, she was living on second floor of our home, and Waqas, he was sitting on the sofa, and I came up, and uh, and I asked my aunt, "Who is he?" And she mentioned Waqas, and I said, "Oh, this is the guy who gave you that shitty novel." First, first of all, I was like, I think I was little, in all in my head and all in my world. I said, like, first of all, let me like slap behind his ear, like, this is the kind of book you give to someone to read. And Wakas looked at me. This was first interaction with him. He looked at me and he said, he was also, smart. He's a smart guy. So he looked at me. He said, like, uh, he said to my aunt, I gave that novel for adults to read, not to kids. and and then my aunt, she started laughing, and I said, whatever. And then I just left. And I just left that room and I went to the kitchen. So that my first interaction with him. But later on, we had slowly we had a lot of conversation, and I said to him, okay, he feels interesting, because he responded to me in a very smart way. So I kind of like got impressed, and I said, okay, I should impress him more, what kind of books he should read. So I gave him, the next novel.
So you said that Wakas was somebody you could talk about ideas with, and somebody who respected your opinion and took you seriously in a time where you didn't really have that outside of your conversations with Wakas. I think it's really cool that you can have all of society and all these strangers, telling you how you should act and what you should do, but it takes like one person to kind of be like to change that in your head. How did you deal with the conflict or the contrast of you go see Wakas, you have these amazing conversations and these ideas, and you guys talk, and then to come back to your home and kind of like, did you feel trapped in a way?
Yeah, I think at the time when I met him and we started reading books together and sharing ideas, I felt that I found someone who I can go and talk to, who understand what I'm saying. And he was also going through a lot of like his self uh, analysis, and he was coming from a village to a small city, living with his aunt. So he was also going through a lot of interesting shift in his personality, and we both, I think we both were like very different, because he also never interacted with girls in this way as much,
Mm,
as both were doing. So he respected me a lot, that, oh, I'm thinking about this. um, for me, whenever I look back, for me, that time of interaction with Wakas was more like I found a friend. I found someone who I can go and talk to, because whenever I was talking about my ideas to my mother, it's very interesting. Like, as a kid, your parents provide, when you are a child, you look at your parents from a very um, safe angle. You feel that, oh, if you need something physically or mentally or whatever, these are the people who will always provide you. So
right.
that trust was broken because of whatever conversation we were doing at that time. So when I met with Wakas, I think I got this idea that um, society can be different, and men can be different, and I can have a conversation with someone who can make sense of it. I remember that I had this similar kind of conversation with my siblings, and they had some kind of like idea that she had a conflict with whatever like is going on between her and mother. So they were also not coming on the same page. So they were most of the time would say like, hey, whatever you think, this is not how it works. um yeah, mostly like Waqas was for me, uh I would say like he was a screen I can project myself to.
Oh.
Yeah, so he was like that at that point.
So, and then eventually Wakas goes off to college in Lahore, and you wouldn't see him again until a year and a half later. And the next time you see him, he's like, Sidra, this internet thing, like,
Yeah.
I'm starting a business and I want you on my team and all this stuff. What was going through your head when you heard that?
So at that point, I heard about internet before, and but he introduced in a very unique way. He said, so I knew at that point that you can go and meet with people, you can chat. There was at that time there was MSN and all that,
Mm-hmm.
Yahoo Messenger, those kind of things, and my friends were using that, so they talked about that. And then Vakas, when I met him, he said that you can actually start a business on internet and you can sell things and you can make websites and you can make pages, and that was very exciting. It was a different window, like you can use this platform for some meaningful work too. And um, and and then he was already like thinking about one idea, which was social media agency. He said like there is this platform called Facebook. At that time they were advertising a lot to start small business and non-profit pages, and they were advertising themselves as a business platform. So he said like just read about this platform, and he said he started sending me article, and he made my Facebook account.
Mm-hmm.
um, I have my Facebook account with my own full name, which is great. So he made my Facebook account and he sent me, and then we started chatting on Facebook. Um, and then we started learning together, like where we can take this business. He was sharing ideas, I was sharing ideas. Mostly it was about learning where it can go. It was not about like, hey, how we can make money. And
Right.
actually, the making money came very, very later in our life.
Wow. And so you eventually did move to Lahore and with Wakas, even though your family, I'm sure, wasn't thrilled about that decision. And you guys started your first company together, which was social media art. Can you tell me about it?
Yeah, so I was living in the hostel, which I gave description in that story. And Waqas was in FC College. He was living with one of his cousins. So at the end, so I was actually I started also doing a part time job in Lahore as a student consultant. So I was getting like $10,000 salary, 10,000 rupees salary, which was $100
A
per
hundred
month
dollars
salary.
a month. Wow.
a, a month salary. And I was paying $40 for my hostel expense, then $20 keeping monthly food expense, and then still like I had like $40. And sometime we were keeping that just to buy small stuff, grocery and all that. And then we both were sometime like go out for one good meal. So and at the end of so I was doing like a part-time job, and in the evening I would go to his college where we had a computer lab. And in that computer lab we were using that computer lab to pitch to our clients. We were not able to like get good clients, just like small here and there, creating pages for them, and working with them on the story. But nothing was coming out of it. We did not had any laptop. He was always, he was not earning any money, so he was mostly like taking money from home. Um, but we were very, very happy. It's very interesting. It was absence of resources, but at the same time there was an energy like, hey, like we can do something. We are going to build something by our own. And actually, a very interesting part about Waqas' life, which we did not touch in the story, is he was also dropping out of college because he couldn't pay fee of his college. And he was also lying with his family that hey, he has college has given him some break because he's a brilliant student. I don't know what kind of story he has created. And he now looking for an interesting job. So they believed him. The interesting thing is they believed him. But yeah, those time was amazing, but we were not going anywhere. That was just like a website page pitching to different clients.
So at your lowest moments, you said that you would go back and you and Waqas would watch YouTube videos of American entrepreneurs who had gone from $0 to $1 million to inspire yourselves. Whose stories were you really attracted to that you were watching and learning about?
Yeah, so we were reading HBR as well as we were watching YouTube videos. So a lot of different kind of context. But HBR we were reading from a college library. No one was reading that. It was like sitting in the corner, and then we'll just two of. Sometimes we will tear off the pages and put that in our pocket. Oh my God, I don't want anyone to do it, but like the stories were so amazing that we were doing that, and in our subconsciousness we were making this excuse, oh, no one is reading it, so whatever. And for YouTube videos we were mostly watching, it's very interesting, I want to say this name, but even at that time we were very much inspired by Steve Jobs. A lot of people are, especially
Yeah.
the idea of like how you can start a company from a garage, and then you can think about an idea on a high quality. That was one. I don't remember a name of the person, but the second person was who started selling garbage, and then made a company, $1 million company. That was very interesting for us. Oh, because in Pakistan we look at garbage like, oh, garbage,
Yeah.
like how you can sell that and make money. It was interesting. And then some very inspiring talks as well, like Jacqueline Novogratz, who is Acumen founder. We actually were listening to her TED Talks a lot because it was giving us a lot of energy. I remember I had a very tough call from my home, and then I listened to one of her TED Talk where she mentioned that um, there are a lot of young people who wants to do something in their life, but they are afraid that what their families would say, what their friend would say. And I always ask them that, ask one question: what is the cost of not doing what you want to do in your life? And when
Wow.
I put that question, oh, what is the cost of what, not doing what I want to do in my life, I imagine like, okay, me leaving everything, then I have other two sisters, they are leaving everything. And then, because at the time I also connected with my sister, my younger sisters, they also started building a huge ambition for themselves. And I almost like imagine a generation of women getting down. So I said, no, like whatever pressure it is, I should take it at the moment and keep going.
Wow, I love that. That's well, we'll get into that a little bit later, but I love how you thought about, if I can make an impact in my own family, like think about if that continues on and on. So after a year of working on social media, you decided to start your second business, which was a shoe company. How did you get the idea for that?
So the interesting story is Waqas, he was in his hometown, and it was 2008, and
Okay.
Facebook was banned in Pakistan. I think 2008 or 2010. I don't recall the exact time, but Facebook was banned during that time because in Europe someone was making cartoons and sketches of Prophet Muhammad, and there was like protests going on around the city, and he was sitting in the village council. So at the it's very interesting, in most of the villages at the end of every day, uh, villagers, they actually gather and they sing songs, sometimes they discuss about politics, they have a conversation about like where societies are going on and all that. So Wakas, he went to one of the council, and he was sitting there, and someone said, hey, we should also protest against Facebook. And then Wakas mentioned that, hey, actually you can use Facebook for good things as well, it's just a platform. And then someone asked him like, what do you do? And he said like, I am actually helping small businesses and non-profit to tell their story on internet. And then Makas asked him like, what do you do? And he said, I make handmade shoes. And he used the word
Mm.
handmade shoes, English word. And then he said, hey, why don't you visit um, our unit, and we call it like workshop, small
Mhm.
workshop. It was like 2 rooms. So then Wakas visited, and he said like, there is a potential. They are doing amazing work. Sidra, can you join? He called me and he said like, hey, can you come? And then I came in next few days. I went there. I was the first woman to enter into that workshop. They never interacted from a business point of view to a woman, but they were very, very respectful. And then we had a conversation. They showed us like how they are making their shoes. And when you are showing your whole system, you always like show the best of the best. Later on, you
Yeah,
learn
of
like
course.
problems are there. But that was our entry over there. And then we told them that, hey, let's sell these shoes over the internet. Let's make a Facebook page. That was the initial idea. And they said, who's gonna buy shoes without trying? Because shoes, it has sizes and all that. It's impossible. And we said, we should try. If we will tell them a good story, if we will have a good customer support, we can sell those shoes. So we all decided that we will come up with $250 each.
Okay.
So the head of that unit, he came up with $250, but Waqas and I, we never had $250, so we did not start the idea. Later on, we won grant from Pasha, which was Pakistan Software House Association. Actually, Google gave grant to start social ideas in Pakistan. So
That's cool.
yeah, so when we won like $10,000 grant, and then that's how we started.
Wow. And then you did that infamous Kickstarter campaign that raised $107,000. So that was obviously a great success. How from doing that, I watched the video, by the way, yesterday. It's so good. It's just you can tell just the passion that comes through that. How did you get from there to a Y Combinator interview?
Huh. Yeah, Kickstarter campaign was extremely, extremely important chapter of our life. We did that in 2014, and one of our friend in US helped us because you need a social security number. So he joined us as a part-time team member and helped us. So Y Combinator, we applied in Y Combinator in 2012 when this was just an idea, and we could not make it. Uh, course. And then when we applied in 2015, they asked this one question, that have you applied before? If yes, how much progress you have made? So we had like a lot to tell during that time. And uh, and then we applied, and yeah, I think we were lucky. Like we were talking about a lot of big ideas which we couldn't do later on in that business. But the big idea was, if we can make it a technology platform where uh, other craftsmen can also like sell their product. But I think we also underestimated that we had to invest a lot in infrastructure, which was not placed in at the time, especially from an e-commerce perspective. Payment gateways was not there, shipping and delivery was super expensive. Like when we shipped our first shoes, it costed us a lot of money. So those kind of things, and we couldn't do that later on.
So when you got accepted into Y Combinator, did you feel relief or did you feel a lot of pressure?
A lot of pressure. I don't know if I have felt ever relieved in my life, because it's always going on one after the other. So Y Combinator brought a lot of pressure. There was excitement. Oh, we are going to the US. Maybe we'll meet some interesting entrepreneurs, and because we were always reading about Silicon Valley and how someone start a small idea and make a big company. So there was an excitement. But when we came here, I think the big pressure was of the language. Waqas and
Yeah.
I, we were not speaking in English in Pakistan. Our national language is in Urdu, so speaking was very, very difficult. Like there was a lot of passion, but when we had to translate that passion into words, we were focused more on our grammar than our message. So that was very hard, and also like it shaken our confidence. Actually, I was reading about someone yesterday. I don't remember the name, but that person said that whenever he has to like take a shot, um, someone asked him like, what is your words of yourself? And he said, whenever I have to take a shot, if I have a doubt, then I always miss that. So I think we got into a frame of mind where we started building a lot of doubts. And then there were like technology companies in YC, and we were selling shoes, so huge difference, and also selling handmade leather shoes. I mean, I think like we were lucky so much in our, the way we were going up. And then the second part was culture. I think it took us a lot of time to adopt into the culture. And what I meant is, what culture is not just like how you wear clothes and all of that. Culture is more like a mindset.
Right.
So to understand that, it took us some time. But I think we worked on that very intentionally for last two, especially during our time in next 2 to 4 years, when we started Atoms.
So the leather shoe didn't quite work out. You decided to pivot to the ideal everyday shoe, which we now know as Atoms. Can you tell me why you decided to pivot, and how was it to like start over?
Why we decide to pivot? So again, like I think a lot of learnings came during our time in Y Combinator. One very particular incident, which I actually mentioned in the story, is we have a demo day in YC, and in our batch we had a demo day, and our friends who bought shoes, they came and they were not wearing our shoes. Like only one or two people they were wearing,
Uh,
and we were thinking, that people wear leather dress shoes when there is a big business event, but we forgot about that. During that moment, it is more important to be more comfortable, casual, as compared to dressed up, too much dressed up. So then we started asking this question, that why people are not wearing our shoes, even though they like our story, they like our region, they bought the shoes. So then we found out that people are becoming more casual in their lifestyle. And at the same time, I went to Italy for a leather exhibition. I noted the same thing. Young people, especially like people who are under 35, 45, they were becoming more casual. And then same time, Pakistan, over there, I also noticed that people are not wearing leather dress shoes as much, but they are becoming more casual. So we started thinking about, the interesting thing is like, every day was always an idea in our head. We were thinking about that best of the best product. You always, if there is a product that is really good and innovative, people use it almost every day. It becomes part of your everyday life. So in our mind, we were making leather dress shoes from a perspective of that people can wear every day, but
right.
every day was shifting. So that's why like we started thinking about Atoms. We went to then different stores, Nike, Adidas, New Balance, just like doing interviews of customers, that what they are buying, what they are looking for. And then we wrote a Google document. The headline was ideal every day, and we put everything over there. We had no idea if we would make it, if we made the shoes or not, but just the ideas. And then yeah, we ended up making that shoes. And
Wow.
yeah.
And how did you, okay, so now suddenly you have a different type of shoe. How do you get investor interest? How do you find your first customers? Like, how did you grow it and drum up the attention in the beginning?
Yeah, I think even we had no intention of attracting investor at that time. We were just focused on like, we have the shoes and a lot of people should wear this or love the shoes. So we just focus on that. When we had first sample, we made that sample in size 10.5, because we did not have that much money, and we wanted to invest less on tooling. So we made I guess at the time 120 pairs we made in 10.5 size. And then we sent an email to our founders in YC, and we said, we are making shoes for hackers and painters. And if your size is this, you can send us an email. And if you are living in San Francisco, we would like to invite you at our home. So we were inviting people at our home. They were trying on shoes, and later on, they were sharing their feedback. And we improved our product on the base of their feedback, and gave them. Some of them we gave like second sample. Some of them they loved the first one, but some of them gave feedback, and we improved, and we sent them the second one. And then they started sharing over social media, this company Atoms,
Man, the power of the internet.
power of the internet. Yeah. So when investors saw that a lot of people are loving this product, they are excited about it, they started sending us emails. Hey, can we meet? Can we try on shoes? So we had we were living in San Francisco on Haight Street. Just by the way,
That's
is
where
where
that's where we met.
that's when we met. Yeah, of course. And we had, and you also came to our basement. Yeah. So
Yes.
we had like 5 housemates, and then we had this basement under our home where we were inviting people with chai and stuff. And yeah, and then some of the, especially like Alexis Ohanian, he is the board member and is the bigger investor in Atoms. He came first time around 10:30 p.m.
Mhm.
At night, and he stayed until midnight. We kept talking. Like he was so tired. He came straight from the airport, so he was so tired. He said, "Do you mind if I lay down and we talk?" And
Wow.
he was laying on our sofa, and we were talking. And the next day he said, and then when he was leaving, he said, "I want Gary Tan to meet you guys tomorrow. Do you have time tomorrow?" And he focused on that message. Said, "We really want to move fast." So next day he asked Gary to come and visit us, and they moved really fast. We were even not legally prepared because we were transitioning from a shoe
Yeah.
company to a new shoe company.
I
But
can't
yeah,
even imagine how that feels. Like
yeah.
that's incredible. And one thing I want to ask you that I was personally thinking about when I think of you guys' story is that, okay, as a business owner in the United States of a really, really like successful shoe company, you have a lot of Americans looking up to you. And not that long ago, you were looking up to these Americans that are the shift in power, the power has shifted. How do you learn to navigate that and also learn to trust your own instincts?
Oh my God, Kulina, I have not thought about that actually. I don't know about that. That if this was intentional. I think if I have to look back or look what's going on right now, um, it just like focus on like what we wanted to do, and that's it. Like focus is like just on the drive, on the dreams. Um, and not like if we want to like inspire a lot of people around here. I think even now, if you ask Waqas and me, we are our biggest critic. We don't like a lot of things in us. Like we have all those big ideas and things, and we are not able to execute that. So I think it's like mostly like it is inspiring ourselves. And how does it feel? I think it feels great, like especially when I shared my story on Humans of New York. I read that story several times. I lived that story and I read that story before posting. Um, I was nervous, bit nervous, but not like emotional as much. When Brandon shared the first part of the story, I started reading comments and story together, and it was very emotional. And at one point, I realized that as a human, our core is same. We all live for freedom. We all live for someone takes our opinion seriously. We live for this, that we should be able to achieve our dreams and the things we want to do in our life. So I think a lot of people were able to associate my story with their story, no matter like where they live, no matter they are in Pakistan or in the US. So that was very powerful for me to see as well, because first time I saw myself not as Pakistani women entrepreneur, but I saw myself as part of like human race, who was able to connect with the core. And it's different. It's a different feel. I'm not sure if I'm doing justice to my feeling here, or what I felt because of the words I'm using, but it's a completely different feeling. It's like connecting with the universe. It's that kind of feeling, where you feel that it doesn't matter color of your skin, it doesn't matter who you are, it just matter that as a human, you are same at your core.
when I was reading the Humans of New York story, I was on the couch and I was just quietly, just reading. And then Anthony heard me like sniffling and he's like, "Are you over there crying?" And I was like, "No, I'm just reading Sidra's story." but but the beauty of it, I think, is that, like you said, it's not just about your specific experiences. It's that anybody reading that story could see themselves in it and could take away a small part of it. For me as an immigrant, when you were explaining all these things, like you were intimidated, you were nervous, all this stuff, and you start believing your doubts. I know what that feels like, but I don't know what it feels like on the scale that you guys went through it. That is, I can't even imagine, and to see how far you've come. And that's one thing I wanted to ask you about, actually. The part in the story that like really like made me emotional was when you said that the more success you had, the more you had a fear of falling backwards all the way back to your home. And you said, sometimes I feel like there is so far to go. How often does that fear flare up and how do you kind of soothe it?
Oh, I am still navigating through that, to be honest. How often it comes, like every time when a big moment comes. Uh, Actually, Polina, this is very interesting. Like, I think I was talking to you last time when we met. Whenever some big thing happened in our life, if I look at past like 10, 12 years, um, something also bad happened at the same time with with the same momentum, or I feel the same intensity. And there is a good, extreme good happen, and then something bad happened, sad happened, and then my mind start thinking about neutral effect. Like I don't feel good, I don't,
Yeah.
like on a neutral state. So a lot of like my, if I have to like look back, for example, like even when there was a Kickstarter campaign, it was a big moment for me, but I was not receiving any personal support from my family, and a lot of emotions going on, like there is no one to celebrate my success in my family. So that neutralized the whole effect. I couldn't celebrate that moment. This is different. Humans of New York story is different. I think I'm much more, the interesting thing is like when you actually gone through so many experiences in your life, good or bad, um, definitely you give a lot, you actually pay a price, but at the same time, uh, you become courageous, more courageous. You also build a lot of different kind of strength inside you. So with Humans of New York story, I think at this point of my life, I have a different type of strength inside me. I think I am feeling at this point, like I'm feeling a lot of power inside me because I was able to bring a shift in my family, which I'm super proud of. And this was like a, a big goal of my life. But now I'm thinking about like I am connected with my cousins, with some of like other Pakistani entrepreneurs who Waqas and I we help often. So I think, um, yeah, I think the other thing which I sometimes like would like to pay attention is like what is going on inside me. Whenever you are giving so much, you are trying to. It's like uh, you are drawn into a sea, and then you are trying to go up.
Yeah.
At the time you are discovering like some interesting stuff what's going on in that beautiful sea, but at the same time you need to take a breath as well. So I sometimes like navigate inside me with those kind of feeling. I have a lot of doubts too, definitely. I think every one of us has, but at the same time I'm also learning that how I can use my fears as my strengths,
Yes.
not thing like that pull me off from my ground, the ground which I have built with such a hard work and with such a passion. Uh, I don't know if there is a perfect answer to it.
That's a perfect answer. So one of the things that I think is absolutely amazing is that you and Wakas have been side by side since you were basically teenagers, and you've navigated this whole thing together, and you've seen each other in the best moments and the worst moments and everything in between. I'm curious, on this journey, because he's your business partner, but he's also your spouse. What what is one way that you've evolved as a person since you met him, and what's one way that he's evolved and changed since you guys met?
First of all, Polina, I have to say, like, you are so good of an interviewer, asking me so good questions. This is amazing.
Uh,
Yeah, so yes, we are still evolving. Like when you are a teenager, you have a lot of energy as well as big assumption about the world around you, and then you go and you start living some kind of reality, and reality hits you very hard. So the reality hit us like hard so many times, and it has shaped us into very different human beings. Like I remember Waqas and Sidra, 19 years old, 20 years old, very, very different than what we are right now. Even in our relationship, like sometimes we see each other in a different situation where we never been before, and we don't know how to navigate. We don't know how to deal with each other during that time. So the good thing is like I don't know if it's a luck again or it's like intention, but we give each other some space. And This time, especially like from 2020, we all live in quarantine, COVID, and all that. Um, we got a lot of time to self reflect. Vakas and I, we never celebrated any news, we never spent some time off since last 10, 12 years. um, but this time we took some time off. We started looking into, okay, how far we came. We need to celebrate. We need to like connect with ourselves. And The other hard part is like it's not easy to connect with yourself because you see a lot good and bad in yourself. So, but we both sometimes we communicate, sometimes we don't, but we have a lot of good friends who we go and talk to. That is very helpful. One thing which I would really say here is that it's very important to have good friends. Don't think about like having 100 people knowing you or all of that. Yes, those people would know you at some point because of your work and all that, but have few friends, maybe one, two, three. Just have really good close friends that always help you. And we read a lot. We actually we still like like you and Bob. We Anthony. We I always call him
I
Bob, and then in back of my head, Vakas sounds come. No, Paulina likes to call Anthony. so
I'm used to all of the names.
so Anthony, the inspiring thing about you too is that you are vivid reader and you go and you take inspiration from other people. So I think having friends around like you who inspire is very, very important.
That was going to be my next question because one thing I really appreciate about you guys is every time we see each other, there's never any small talk. It's always like deep, interesting, philosophical things, and I leave and I'm like, oh my god, that was awesome. But so how do you have you always been intentional about choosing the types of people you want to surround yourself with?
Actually, we are, and we did some. You do some kind of mistakes as well, where you not like people, but like we did several mistakes who we were working before. I think it's the same thing. Like your personal and your professional, people are the most important thing. Like they inspire you, they give energy, they take energy. So you have to be very mindful about that. We are very much inspired by a few people, and we want to like keep them very, very close to us. And it's very important. It's like it's that important, um, as living by yourself, because there is a lot of effect of words, there is a lot of effect of action on us, which we intentionally understand, but or unintentionally understand. It has a lot of impact. So for us, like keeping that kind of people around us is very important when we make it.
And there's this idea that success breeds success. So by surrounding yourself with people that you admire and you're inspired by, you can draw inspiration and ideas and iterate. And I love that. And I actually want to use this to talk about after you left to go on your independent path, you caused a major shift in your own family and your sisters and your mom, and they've also gone down, followed their ambitions. How does that feel to know that you caused this, you kind of like pushed the ball and then the dominoes fell?
Yeah, or a fire, right now, like after this story, there's a lot of fire in my family. Actually, I also see that fire in my mother again. Like she is going to retire this year in April, and now she's thinking about what she want to do next. So she's not thinking about small ideas now. She's thinking about, like, if she has to start a business, how she would start with my sister. She's even thinking about, like, starting a, my sister, she's working with she's actually has a startup, women health startup. So she's thinking about, can she build a factory where women make sanitary pads in Pakistan. So she's
That's
thinking about
amazing.
big ideas. But at the same time, I think the shift which I'm very excited about is the mindset shift. Like, we have a young girl, newborn baby girls in our family. So how my family is now thinking about child development, child growth,
Yes.
both for boys and girls, that is fascinating for me. Like, I'm learning from them, that how they are thinking about home environment effect, what kind of education, interaction a kid needs, a time they need. I have my elder sister as well. She's actually, I couldn't, like, talk about her in that story, but she is also running a college, and she is living in a small town, and going through a lot of struggle in her life, because she um, is also working on changing and bringing a shift in her family, which is very, very hard. Actually, I have a lot of sympathy and admiration for men and women both, who are, trying to make a change both in their life and outside, because it's not easy. Like, it breaks you in all possible ways which you have never imagined before. So my elder sister, she's struggling a lot from that perspective, but she's trying, because she's getting a lot of inspiration from other sisters. um, but yeah, that's where my family is right now.
And that's the thing, like meaningful change, I always say, starts with the people around you in your own family. If you can make meaningful change there, like it compounds. As
Yeah.
we wrap this up, I want to ask you, I read this comment on your Humans of New York story, and it said, you don't complain. You knew what you wanted and just went for it. That is how successful people think. They don't see obstacles, they see challenges and figure out how to overcome them. So when you try something and it doesn't work, Sidra, do you think about it as a failure, or do you just see it as a puzzle that needs to be solved?
Yeah, so I look at myself as a doer, like, who try all best possible way to get things done. So I'm not good at failing, actually, to be honest. I hate, like, myself seeing failing, and I try all my best to avoid that, because how you celebrate and how you actually learn from failure is a very, very big quality. So even if I sometimes, whenever I fail in smaller things, I don't get worry about that, because that is a big chance for me to learn. But I'm very, very clear that what are those one or two things where I don't want to be a failure, and I try all my best. And there are other small things where I just categorize them. Okay, it's, this is not my strength. This is not as important for my for my life for now. And if this I'm not successful over there, it's fine. I will learn. I'll still do that, but I will learn from that. That's like my whole categorization about, like, doing something which is challenging and hard.
And my final question for you is, what does the word success mean to you?
Uh, I there is no. Um, I think success is, you cannot define it in a big journey. You can't define it like next 10, 15 years. I think success is defined in small moments. I also found out that sometimes when we are thinking about something as a success, it's still a work to be done. There
Mm,
is still a lot of work left on the table to make and improve things. So for me, for if I have to like look at Sidra, like when how I will evaluate that I have been successful, I want to keep going. Like I don't want to like for me it's very important uh, and Polina, I don't know like if you have felt this or not, but as a woman, there are many moments come in your life where you received inside or outside pressure to step down,
mm,
to not your place. And I am very intentional about that. And I am communicating about that with my partner and with people around me that if I want to do something and carry on, I want to. And for me like it's very very important, and if I would like to like leave something on the table, that should be my decision, and I would like to take it for myself. uh, so that is something like I always want to be intentional, and I want other people to be intentional, which actually unfortunately people are not. Like even people who are very very close to you, sometimes they would come to you and they would say something about your passion, about your dream, but they will say opposite, which you feel opposite, but it will come from them as a support, as a sympathy. Oh, you are tired, so why don't you take rest? Even though you are, high in emotion and you want to work more, and they will like try to force, we have been seeing you work. And their intention is right, but you don't feel comfortable. I don't know. Maybe I'm different from that angle, but yeah, sometimes I
ab-
don't like.
absolutely. If you want to do it, you're gonna do it. We saw I with the face masks. People were like, "Oh, I don't think that's a good idea," and you're like, "I'm gonna do it. If I have to do it in secret, I'm gonna do it." So I love that. Amazing, Cedra. Thank you so much. This was a great conversation.
Thank you so much, Paulina. And part of the it's very interesting, like especially having an interview with you because there is a different energy with you. I'm not looking at you like someone who's interviewing me. I'm looking at you as a friend who already know a lot of about my life, and now she wants to like tell to other people about that. So thank you so much. This time is so precious for me, and I enjoyed every minute of it. Thank you so much.
I've learned a lot. Thank you so much.